let's get to work. Bobano, we are starting with Raptors, Celtics, and man, so there are cappers out there who are praying that some of us are going to keep betting the Raptors. Now, I haven't bet them in the first two games, and we said right off the top of the series that the fact that the Raptors were minus 130 is a mistake. It should have been a pick 'em for this series. Corey Simmons says Celtics sweep. A lot of cappers are talking like that, but I am close to pulling the trigger on the Raptors, not because I'm just a big fan. Let's talk about pace. Let's talk about market. Let's break this down. First off, spreads, totals. Let's break that down. Raptors are now a pick 'em at one book, -1 everywhere else. Total opens up at 214, is now 215. We cashed on the under in game 2, and it was very simple. The pace of game 1 was at 105 possessions a game. We knew that was going to go down. That was the only way that Nurse would make adjustments. That was one way we thought that Nurse would make adjustments, slowing down the pace. That is exactly what happened. During the seeding games, Raptors pace 103.69, Celtics 101.06. In the playoffs, Celtics pace is slow, 97.58. They looked so good in game 1, running like crazy because the Raptors weren't expecting that. And we made adjustments in game 2. What are the adjustments going to be made in game 3? Celtics have won 6 straight. They've beaten the Raptors all year long, 5 of their 6 matchups. So Toronto's 0-3 against the Celtics in the bubble, 11-0 against everyone else. But we've been here before. The big thing is that there's no Kawhi. So Siakam has got to man up. He's got to be the guy because we know that Lowry and Van Fleet will step up, but we need Siakam so badly. But we fell behind the Bucks 2-0. We had a 12-point lead in the third quarter. And I don't think – now, I love Marcus Smart. He's a gamer. He's someone you want to go to war with. But he's not going to do that again. He's not going to completely turn the game around on his shoulders again and hit, 5 straight threes and gorgeous threes and completely take over the game. I don't expect him to do that again, and I want the Raptors. Bobano, Raptors, Celtics, take it away.
Yeah, I'm going to be small on the Raptors. I'm going to be on the Raptors, sure, but I'm going to be small on them, half unit. That's it. Because to me, Boston's got better, really some advantages. Their athletic wing players are causing the Raptors fits. When you got Brown, Tatum, and company, it's hard for the Raptors. The Raptors are having trouble getting right up in them to contest shots right now. And that's difficult. There is some size advantages that the Celtics have on the perimeter. That's made it very difficult for the Raptors to overcome them. That being said, this is backs against the wall time for Toronto. You're going to get whatever their best effort is and best game. I would think tonight's the night you see it. Let's not forget something very important here about game 2. Toronto's on their way to winning that game. Well on their way to winning that game. Late third quarter, they're up double digits. They didn't finish that quarter strong. Boston got the lead under 10, start the fourth quarter. But even then, they're up by 8 or 9, comfortable enough position, just get back to playing. Things are good. And then bam, 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 like a bunch of bullets being fired at you and hitting you right in the chest. 5 3-pointers and the 3-point barrage that is Marcus Smart happened in the fourth quarter. And it completely changed the game. All right? If you take out that 3-point barrage sequence, Raptors win that game. I'm sorry, they win that basketball game without that. That completely changed the game around, completely. They don't win that game without those 5 3-pointers in a row. Several of them, I might add, were contested. It was not really bad defense by the Raptors. It was just unbelievable offense and unbelievable shot making by Marcus Smart, who just got ridiculous for that stretch of time. If without that, Raptors win that game. So that's the thing. That the play is the thing was something that Dave Malinsky, who rest in peace, said. The play's the thing. And in game 2, the plays were the thing. That 5 in a row 3-point barrage for Marcus Smart completely changed the game. It energized the Boston bench. You saw the reactions of the Celtic players. Every 3 that went down, they're jumping out of their seats on the bench. They're going nuts. They're enthusiastic. Boston ramped it up. They said, hey, Marcus Smart's brought us right back into this game. We can win it. And sure enough, they did, and the Raptors sagged. Raptors' energy level dropped like a stone after all those threes went in. So you got to remember that. It's not like Toronto played a horrible, horrible basketball game in game 2. It was a situation where all of a sudden one guy gets red hot, just can't miss, even with a hand in his face. What are you going to do? I still believe in this coach, Nick Nurse, to make the adjustments. Again, I'm concerned this is just a bad matchup for Toronto. So I'm keeping it small. I'm not in love with it by any stretch. But in this spot, in a game that I thought they played more than good enough to win, Toronto's worth a bet of some kind here in game 3. And I will say this, at some point the pendulums have to swing for Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet. Obviously 3 for 19 or whatever it was the other night in game 2 combined. That's got to change for sure for the Raptors. I think it's overdue to change. I don't love it, but in this spot, at this price, still around pick'em, money line with the Raptors is something I got to go with.
I agree. And I agree with this chat as well. We have a very, very intelligent handicapping chat. And Razor Sharp saying, and others in the chat saying, the issue is the 3-point line. And the issue is that the Celtics defend the 3-point line.
I can't tell you I'm in love with the Raptors, and I'm telling everybody, don't unload on the Raptors today. But I have to take some kind of bet on them given the situation. And I think they played well enough. They deserved a better fate, I thought, in game 2, but it doesn't work that way. You still got to win, and they didn't.
I need Siakam to step up. But VanVleet and Lowry and Siakam, none of them have hit 20 points in the first few games. And the 3-point line, the Raptors have made 21 of 80. And there have been open looks. It's not like they're completely covered all the time. Toronto shooting 38.5% compared to the Celtics shooting 44.7%. Cordero says, if I'm taking the Raptors, I'm taking them early. Okay, I'm not pulling the trigger yet. I want to continue talking about this spot, and I want to talk about props. But let's move into the total situation here, Bobano. This total opens up at 214 at Bet365. It's now at 215. Do you have a lean?
I lean over. This is one of those situations where 2 unders in the first 2 games. The Raptors shoot incredibly bad in both games, especially, of course, game 1. It was just horrible for them in that game. It's another one of those situations where often you see the first 2 games stay under and the same team win the first 2 games. A lot of times when I think the other team might win game 3 to make it 2-1, I sometimes look for the total to reverse itself and go over. And, of course, you're seeing an adjustment, right, in terms of this total. For a game 3 tonight. The Raptors and Celtics game 1 total was closer to 219, 218.5. Same with game 2. And now you're seeing 217. So you have seen a slight downward adjustment. So I just think situationally, Raptors, I think, will step up offense. They have to. I mean, it's time for some of these guys that can shoot, are capable of shooting much better than they have in this series so far. Freddie was okay, and he was at least a little bit better in game 2. Kyle Lowry, though, has got to shoot better. Norm Powell, where's his offense gone? They need more out of him in terms of his offensive game. Marc Gasol, I'm not going to wait around for him to get going offensively. As long as he defends and rebounds, I'm okay with that. I think his offensive game's just declining, eroding a little bit in the latter stages of his career. But especially Lowry and especially Powell. Those are 2 guys offensively that got to get it kicked up a notch or 2. At least for the Raptors. So just given the situation, I lean to the over. I haven't pulled the trigger. I doubt I will, but if I'm betting the total, I'd lean over. You're getting a deflated total, and I think some of these percentages for the Raptors have to go up at some point.
Wow, by the way, there's been a big move. I wonder if this is just a Bet365 thing because it's such a, there's so many Canadians on this book, but wow, -2 for the Raptors, a 20-cent move. -135, they're now on the money line. Wow, you can now get the Boston Celtics at +115.
Wow.
Ooh, well, that's going to stop me from taking the Raptors right now. I guess I could take the -2. Okay, let's go quickly into.
I'll say this quickly because we're not going to talk about Miami-Milwaukee. They're not playing today. This could be Miami-Milwaukee in the other East series with Boston. Boston's the undervalued team, mispriced from the beginning, and you just ride the Celtics every game. Maybe that is that way, but I think Toronto's got a little bit more intestinal fortitude than Milwaukee. Okay, part of the reason why I took Miami in game 1 and I did come back with Miami again in game 2 is I think Milwaukee is flat out gutless. I think they're gutless. I think they're a soft team. I think you can. Giannis, to me, this isn't big time basketball from a guy that thinks he's the MVP of the league the first 2 games of this series for the Milwaukee Bucks. Missing free throws, getting in foul trouble, just bad plays, turning the ball over, treating the basketball like a hand grenade. That's not big time basketball from the Greek Freak in that series. And I think Milwaukee's a little bit weak mentally, a little bit soft, push them around a little bit. You got these Jay Crowders and these Jimmy Butlers, these real street tough basketball players on this Miami Heat team, and they're bullying the Bucks in the first 2 games. I think the Raptors at least have a little bit of pushback in them, and more of it, and will show more of it against Boston, perhaps than Milwaukee will against Miami. So even though I believe in the mispriced series line and game-to-game line in that series, I'm not quite as on board with that thought process here with Boston-Toronto. But I will say this, if you bet Boston game 1 and you bet Boston game 2, this could be a mispriced series situation here. I wouldn't talk you out of taking them again in game 3 if you've been on them the first 2 games as well.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Let's go to a quick player prop perspective, and we got to move quickly because we still have the Nuggets game. We have NHL, and we still have NCAA football. But I know this game is near and dear to our heart. Gasol has not looked good while he's been on the floor. He's overcompensating for his lack of offense by really pushing hard defensively. 6 fouls yesterday, last game in 21 minutes, which makes Ibaka a bigger piece. 17-9 for Ibaka last game, and I expect more of the same. His points and rebounds are at 22.5. His points are at 14.5. Is there anybody that you would make a move on in the player prop situation here, Bobano?
I'm going to go I'm going to go Tatum for Boston because Walker as well is kind of interesting for me. He came alive in the fourth quarter. How good is Kemba Walker? I mean, we talk about Tatum and Brown, and they've been great. Even Daniel Tice. I mean, this guy's given them way more in that front court than anybody thought. He gave Embiid more fits in the first round than people thought. But Kemba Walker had a brutal first 3 quarters. Tells you what a professional he is. He had a brutal game, brutal 3 quarters in game 2. All he does down the stretch is make one big shot after another. Somehow say, you know what, I've stunk, I've had a bad day, but late in the game, my team needs me, close game, I'm going to get the job done. Kemba Walker did. I'm kind of interested in his point prop over because I think he'll play a more complete, better game today. Same with Tatum for the Celtics. And from a Raptors perspective, I don't mind the Ibaka over made threes. That's worth a look at because, again, they're going to leave him open. I think they're going to cover other players and maybe give him those opportunities. He made them in game 2. He could make them again here in game 3. Lowry and Powell are the value props for me from a Raptors perspective, just because I think they are in need of getting things going offensively. Kyle Lowry is going to have to be more assertive, go to the basket. If his 3-point shot's not working, take it to the basket, and he will. And I think Norm Powell, who has shown me enough this season, Jimmy, that when he gets it going, he can be one of those players like a Marcus Smart. When he starts feeling it, getting in rhythm, he can just go on a run where he makes 5 of 5 or 7 of 8 from the floor. I think he's due for one of those games today. And that's where the value is. Their player props from an over standpoint have been deflated because of the struggles in the first 2 games. So value toward Lowry and Powell over points, in my opinion.
I like it. We have the great Paul Thompson in the chat, a spectacular thoroughbred capper. I'll be back on Saturday, full day of horses on Saturday, Paul, starting at 10:45 a.m. Eastern. And I expect us to break our 10.5-hour record from last week, or last big day we had for the Traverse Stakes. Saturday, big day. I agree. It's a funny market here at Bet365 for these player props. First off, Tatum is at 26.5, and it's heavily juiced to the under. Minus 150 to the under, plus 110 to the over. Kemba at 21.5. It's the other way around. Heavily juiced to the over. I agree that Lowry has to step up. He has to. He simply has to. I also agree that I think that the 2 guys I could see stepping up are Lowry and Ibaka. My issue with Lowry is I'm just not certain that it's going to be from a point production standpoint.
Right. It could be an assist facilitating standpoint. I hear you. It could be.
His assists and rebounds are at 13.5, and that's juiced to the under.
I'm going to be on Norm Powell. I mean, he's 9.5. Can you not get to 10 points? I mean, I really think he's someone that has the potential to step up and has to, in my opinion, because I can't bank on Lowry all of a sudden getting his shot going today as much. Powell stepping up, helping out Fred, that's going to go a long way. And 9.5. Again, we've seen this. I think Powell, because I remember hearing someone say this, he was 13.5 as point prop in game 2, and all of a sudden it's down to 9.5. So that's value I'm not passing up with a guy that I know is capable of having a good game shooting the basketball.
Shane Schwader loves the Powell look. By the way, threes for Ibaka, 1.5, heavily juiced to the under. Very strange. Powell's at 9.5, and Shane Schwader loving it. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and hum and haw because I could. We could sit here and talk about this game for the next 30 minutes, but I plan to make a move. And thankfully, we have more.
Right, Jimmy? There you go. Jimmy, make your move. Step across the line. Bet another game. Come on, dare me. There you go.
But I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes thinking about it.